So let's talk for a moment about wireless LAN parameters or wireless LAN configurations that could cause client issues. So what are some of the things we would look at if we suspect our wireless LAN may not be configured correctly? The clients are having issues connecting. We've looked at all the other aspects of from our client side. We've looked at the wireless LAN controller. Now we need to dive into the wireless LAN configuration here. First thing that can happen to us is our SSID can be off, right? Remember, SSIDs require the spelling to be exactly the same, and the SSIDs are case sensitive. So if I have an SSID set up, and then I'm cloaking my SSID or something else, and then I configured something on my client, it has to match exactly. Otherwise, if it's case sensitive, if I use a lab with a capital L for my SSID, and then on the client I just type in lab with a lowercase l, that is seen as two completely different SSIDs, so configuration will not work. Next up, I may have the radio policy attached to the wrong band. I may have a radio policy for a completely different band that I'm using. So that could be an issue as well. My interface group could be incorrect. My configuration for my interface group could be meant for group 1, and I've actually done it for group 2. So that's another thing we need to check. Also, mismatch security settings. Very important. Our authentication could be wrong. All sorts of things could be wrong. So make sure you check your authentication or security settings. 9 times out of 10, this is our authentication side. So be very careful here. Speaking of authentication, what happens when our radius server goes down, folks? Well, we're not going to be able to connect. What happens if our radius server isn't configured? Well, now we are pointing to a radius server that's not doing anything. Both can be an issue in our environments getting the clients to connect. Last but not least, over here is our different data rates that are supported. We have to ensure that the correct data rates are enabled and those we don't want are disabled. So these settings are all listed here for us. You can see the SSID is up here. We have to make sure that that's correct. Our radio policy right here is we have to ensure that that's correct as well. So wireless LAN general, this gives us a lot of our settings. Let's jump out and look at those two settings that we're going to ensure. So wireless LAN, we're going to jump on this wireless LAN. General, you can see the SSID right there. That's where I want to make sure that that matches on the client side as well. Our radio policy, make sure the radio policy is applied correctly. Our inner group or interface group, what group are we using? Is it supposed to be management? If it is, great, we're in the right spot. If not, I need to change that. That's not the only place we need to go. We need to look at our layer 2 security. We can do MAC filtering here that can cause an issue. We can look at our settings down here, what's enabled or not enabled. And then last but not least, our 802.11b&g global parameters. So if I go here and then we go to security, we can see those layer 2 settings. Is 802.1x enabled? Is it supposed to be enabled? This is one thing I need to check. Our authentication settings, is this correct? Am I supposed to be using WPA or WPA2? Am I just using WPA2? What am I using on my side and the client side? We have to make sure we're matching on both sides here. So lots of different information to keep track of. Please be aware of this troubleshooting that can happen with our wireless LAN configuration. SSIDs, radio policies, interface groups, authentication, and radius servers. Not to mention those data rates. Very important to get those data rates